The Angels are 1-9 in their last 10 games against the Twins. 6 out of those 9 losses were by 5 runs or more. Could our favorite team change things last night?
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels did not change things last night. They dropped the game against the Twins, and we've got 4 takeaways from a pretty terrible game. We're also sharing an update on Angels minor leaguer Rio Foster, and we're answering questions about Nolan Schanuel. One specifically, when is he coming back, and should he even come back? Before we talk about the Angels, we want to thank our sponsor, Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our 4th season as the host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you as lifelong fans of this team every single Monday through Friday, every single weekday, however you want to slice it. Mike, as you mentioned, the Angels lost this one 12-3, just a pitiful performance for the Halos. We've seen more of in August and September. We've seen a lot of this, haven't we?
Yeah, this has been kind of the team that we've been following for the last 10, 11 years in August and September. Just not really good, falling off a cliff, and they weren't good last night. First takeaway from last night's game, Caden Dana did start, and he wasn't as strong as he was in his previous start. He went just 5 innings against the Royals, but he did do really well. Allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, struck out 4 through just 70 pitches. But last night, 4 2/3, 5 hits, 5 runs. Here's the kicker, John. 5 walks. That was the big key for him. And he did have a career high 9 strikeouts. So a lot of swings and misses, which is something that I've been asking for and wanting pitchers that can have swing and miss in their game. But the 5 walks really did him in. The 5 runs really did him in. He threw 99 pitches. Johnny allowed the first 2 runs in the top of the second on a Royce Lewis home run. And then the Angels got 3 runs back in the bottom of the second, but then Dana allowed a game-tying run in the third to someone not named Royce Lewis. And then he did settle down in the 4th. He struck out the side. He got 1 batter looking, 2 batters swinging. But then the Twins got him again in the top of the 5th, and it was a 2-run home run from what's his name? Royce Lewis, who suddenly is the greatest hitter against Caden Dana. And maybe it was because all of his family was there last night. John, this is the most frustrating thing about the Angels this season, is that those runs, that home run, it came with 2 outs.
Yeah.
Caden Dana got the first 2 guys pretty easily, but then couldn't finish the inning. Now, Royce Lewis was 2 for 3 with 4 RBIs against Caden Dana last night with 2 home runs. Everyone else had 3 hits in 16 at-bats with just 1 RBI against Caden Dana. So frustrating game for Caden Dana. I wanted to see him in at least maybe 2-3 more starts this season, depending on how things go. And he looked good, but it was that 5th inning where he just couldn't shut things down.
Well, and it's an uneven performance, Mike, when you talk about, you get the career high 9 strikeouts, but it also comes along with the 5 walks. And it felt like every single time he put somebody on, it would come back to bite him. And look, that's going to come with the territory when it comes to the kinds of pitches that he throws, especially when it's like a slider that starts in the zone and then dips out of the zone. And if somebody sits off of that, they're not going to swing on it. They're going to take their walks. They're going to take ball 4, right? And it wasn't so much a lot of that. It was missed locations, especially the slider that he did give up for a home run in that first at bat against Royce Lewis. So he wasn't as sharp. And I think that's going to come with the territory with somebody like Caden Dana. And I'm fine with that. At this point, what are we playing for except to see what we have next season? But again, a very uneven performance from Caden Dana. Again, great to see the strikeouts, because that's certainly been something that's been missing from this team. But the 5 walks, Mike, reminds me of the way Patrick Sandoval would pitch, or the way Reed Detmers would pitch, right? Where you'd get the strikeouts, that's all well and good, but it doesn't mean much if you're putting guys on base for free and letting them score.
What did you see last night? Was it release point again, or was it just a combination of his pitches not having the bite on it that it needed to, and the batters not swinging at those pitches that he was trying to get them to swing at?
It was really just location, because I looked at after he was done, I looked at anything that could have been different. And, the slider, the spin was the same, the fastball, all of that, all the metrics were the same. He didn't do anything differently than his last start in terms of throwing the pitches. It was location. It just was not in a great spot. And Royce Lewis took that slider for a ride, and that's really what it came down to.
It did feel like that because he was missing a lot of high and in. Did you notice that last night? A lot of batters were kind of backing up when they were in the right-handed batter's box and your head back, because he was missing a lot of high and in, not really low and away, but when he was trying to throw in, he just couldn't hit the inside part of the plate, whether it was high or whether it was low. And so that location was really his biggest issue. It was good that he wasn't struggling with, his release point and those types of things. Maybe he was just tired from the Ohapi Bowl bowling on Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he shouldn't have bowled. He was throwing stuff out of the zone.
He wore himself out.
I know. Second takeaway, Mike. Logan Ohapi was put on the 7-day concussion IL, which means that he was a trooper for showing up at the Ohapi Bowl.
I asked him when he came over. I was like, "All right, bro, how you feeling?" He was like, "Not good, man. Not good."
Yeah,
you get hit in the jaw with a bat. You have the right to say I'm not feeling good. So yeah, I'm glad he was able to show up. Glad he was able to be there.
I appreciate the fact that they did put him on the concussion IL. They mentioned on the broadcast that Ray Montgomery said it was worse than it looked and sounded on the broadcast, because it looked like he hit it off the chin and it was under the mask, but you could tell he was rattled by that. So I appreciate the fact that they're being cautious with him, because you don't want any long-term effects, especially when you're not playing for anything at this point.
Yeah.
The Halos ended up calling up Sebastian Rivero, and he started at catcher, Mike, and he plays with the Salt Lake Bees in 231 at bats this year. He's got a 264 average, 309 on base, 429 slugging, and an OPS of 738. Great numbers for a catcher. 9 home runs, 45 RBIs, 26 years old. The Halos got him over the offseason in December. He's played with AA Mississippi and AAA Gwinnett and the Atlanta Braves organization. I'm sure. Go ahead, make your jokes about former Braves, all that stuff. Everybody. He did see some major league action with the Royals in 2021 and 2022, but in his first at bat in the majors since 2022, he hit a 2-run double, and that at that point had tied the game. And so you felt like, all right, we got a little bit of a game here, but unfortunately, that's not what ended up happening.
Yeah. Third takeaway, John. Trout led off and Neto hit third because Ray Montgomery listens to Locked On Angels. And
I don't know if I want to claim that.
No,
actually.
Right? Now, it did pay off initially. Trout second at bat, he singled home Rivero after his double. And then Trout had another RBI opportunity in the fifth. Teodosio hit a triple. By the way, that was the last hit for the Angels in the game in the fifth inning. But then Trout popped out to second base. Was 1 for 3 with an RBI, 2 walks in the leadoff spot. So those are leadoff spot numbers that Mike Trout did put up. He hasn't homered in 25 straight games now. His longest drought of his career is 27, and that was back in 2015. John Neto had a chance to knock in Teodosio in that same inning, in the fifth inning, and he flew out. And he had another big opportunity in the seventh when the game was still within reach with 2 out walks to Trout and Moncada. Neto grounded out to the shortstop and into the inning. He was just 1 for 3 batting third, and it was also hit by a pitch. He did have a really crazy circus catch in that top of the fifth inning, running with his back to the home plate, back to the mound, tried to catch the ball over his shoulder. He juggled it 3 times and then grabbed it as he fell to the ground. So that was spectacular, Zach Neto. But then he made an error in the 8th inning, what led to a lot of runs for the Twins. It was a routine play to short. He kind of acted like he was going to throw to second base, and then he threw it to first, and the ball just sailed on him and missed Peraza completely.
Yeah, and technically, as far as the scoring stands right now, 3 errors in this game for the Angels, 2 from Moncada, 1 from Neto. No, there was a lot more errors than that, including Matthew Lugo overrunning something in right field that led to more runs for the Twins. scoring. So it was a pitiful performance, especially on the field. I want to read our fourth takeaway really fast, but then I want to bring up something from a friend of ours who was in attendance against the A's over the weekend.
Okay.
And I'll mention that. But the fourth takeaway is the Halos have been hit by pitches more than anyone else this season. They were hit for the 84th time this season. This time it was Zach Neto, his 14th hit by pitch this season. They were hit 5 times on Sunday and one more last night. But there was a friend in attendance for the Angels A's. I think it was either Friday night or Saturday night. He said they look lifeless. They look like in the pregame warmups, like they didn't want to be there. Felt like he had to pull teeth to get them out of the dugout. And our friend said, I feel like there's something going on behind closed doors. I feel like there's something that we don't know. Mike, I got to say, it probably is whatever's happening with Ray Montgomery at the top of this food chain, so to speak, right? With his management and, having the blowout games that the Angels have had lately. Like, I know that's going to deflate anybody and it's going to make you not want to be there. But fact is, there's been a lot more of that since Ray Montgomery took over.
Yeah.
There's been a lot more of these kinds of issues on the field since Ray Montgomery took over.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's all Ray Montgomery's fault, but at the same time, the hustle and the the urgency just hasn't been there. And maybe it's because it's September and they're out of the playoff race. There's nothing to really go for here. And also there's been some injuries, and also there's been, poor pitching performances. But even that makes you kind of wonder, like, what are these guys even playing for? Are they putting their best foot forward? It's just really frustrating. And I think everybody's feeling it. I feel like maybe they can't wait for the season to be over, right?
Yeah. You and I have had some conversations, and the vibe we've received from those people that are connected to the organization is a lot of frustration. That's what we can tell you. There's a lot of underlining frustration and not being thrilled with how things have gone, not just on the field, but within the organization as well. So that, I think, is really starting to spill over in September, because, I mean, why are we playing? What are we playing for? Right. And it just seems like we're kind of out on the softball field now, not on the baseball field. Right. We're kind of having fun and throwing the ball around, and we made a great play and we're going to deke the runner here, and then we're going to throw it over to first. It just it didn't feel like our heads are in the game. It didn't feel like we're focused. It just didn't feel like we're making sure that the ball's going into our glove. Right. You got to see the ball on the top of your cap, that put your head down, grab that, right? Like none of that kind of just was happening, especially last night. But John, after 10, 11 years of August and September baseball that's meaningless, I mean, this is a part of the reason why it's meaningless, is because they just haven't been playing really well all season long, and then they're not playing for anything when it matters. And so I feel for the guys, right? Because they're out there busting their butts for a really long time, but it's that situation with Trout and Ohtani, but now it's different players. Maybe more talent is on this team than in those seasons past, but it just feels like they're not getting the support that they need. They're not getting the encouragement that they need. They're not getting the direction that they need, right? Or it's not helpful to them. And so it just feels like there's this underlining frustration. There's this underlining mood of kind of like, we almost there? Let me check my watch. Is it October yet? Like, can we go home? That's really what it felt like last night.
With all that said, I wouldn't be surprised if things get blown up in the offseason. Like, you and I have appreciated what Perry Manassian's been able to do. We appreciated the fact that, yes, we finally have some good players on this team because they've had the draft the way that they have and brought up people. But, Mike, when you see stuff like this and you hear stuff like that, I think everybody's got to go. Honestly, like you got to reset the culture, and the culture has come crashing down since Ron Washington had to take his medical leave. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we got a really important update on Rio Foster, a young player in the Angels minor league system who was in a very terrible car accident. And it's very important that we talk about it and we discuss it with our everydayers who might not have heard this news. Plus, we'll get into a conversation on when will Nolan Schanuel be back. We'll get into all of that coming right up.
Even though the Angels are terrible, I still love going to games. It's just a great atmosphere. It's fun to be around all the fans. Angel fans are great. Even last night, they're not playing well and people are showing up. I know it was Trout bobblehead, but people were showing up and cheering on Trout. And so, I mean, this team, if it was good, they would have a really great fan base to cheer them on. And I think when they went to the World Series, that proved it. And the reason why I love going to games is because I love this team, and how I get to those games is with GameTime. This app gives the advantage back to fans. There's no long queues or surprise fees. It gives you everything that you need. It's fast. It's easy. It's backed by the GameTime guarantee. 100% authentic tickets. They're delivered on time and at the best price. All the fees are included. So the price you see is the price that you pay. So download the GameTime app right now, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Download GameTime today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Of course, you can catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, get in on the conversation in the comments section. Hit that like and subscribe button to help us meet other Angel fans who might not know about the show. And of course, you can follow us at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros. Mike, we got really bad news over the weekend it was reported that the Angels had an accident with Rio Foster, who was in high A, I should say, up in the Pacific Northwest. And it was very unfortunate because he's been in critical condition since that accident. Fortunately, we've gotten an update. There was an update from his mother, who actually wrote on his GoFundMe page. Mike, you have that update, don't you, on your notes there? Yeah.
So Rio Foster's in critical but stable condition. Suffered a skull and facial fracture after a car crash on Friday in Richmond, Washington. So from Rio's mom, Iris Cleveland, she did provide an update on the GoFundMe on Monday. She said her son has undergone brain surgery and has had several more procedures and is going to need some more in the coming months. She actually wrote, Rio is the most humble, kind, and respectful young man, and this is the most unfortunate circumstance. He works so hard and has worked so hard to get to where he's at today, and was on fire these past few weeks. Although he's in this predicament, we know that this is something that he will come back from, and 10 times stronger. Now, he was the passenger, John, in this single car crash around 2 a.m. He was ejected from the car. There were 3 other passengers in the vehicle. The car flipped. It crashed into a pole, and I guess they were in a roundabout.
Yeah.
And according to the report, they failed to negotiate the roundabout, is what the report said. Now, the driver is a 23-year-old who was arrested on 3 felony counts of vehicular assault. Now, with an interview with The Athletic, Sam Blum reported this. The driver is a friend of Rio, like a longtime friend, and they have been together for a long time, supported each other. And according to documents, what we're learning is that the driver was drinking and they were at a party. Rio was drinking, and then they were going to another party, and then they just lost control of the vehicle. And so just a terrible, awful situation. Rio's mom did write on the GoFundMe, please, please, please keep him in your prayers. And the fact that this is a family connection, really close family friend, has got to be even more heartbreaking for them. And so, we are with Rio and with that family. I'm sure that we'll get more updates. Thank you, Sam Blum, by the way, for following this story. He's done a great job in reporting on this since Friday.
Yeah, Sam's been doing a great job getting into the details and just keeping Angel fans posted about this tragic accident. So a little bit of background, if you don't know about Rio Foster, he was the Angels' 16th round pick in the 2023 draft out of Florence Darlington Technical College in Florence, South Carolina. He's been playing outfield, Mike, and he's been playing up in high A for the Tri-City Dust Devils. He had been named the Northwest League Player of the Month just a day before the accident. And here's what he did in the month of August. Across 26 games, he had a .333 average, a .456 on base, a .656 slugging, and a 1,112 OPS. He had 7 home runs, knocked in 23 RBIs, 21 walks, and 93 at-bats. And that followed a good July where he had a .340 average, a .466 on base, a .532 slugging, and a .998 OPS. The other two
Yeah.
players named in the month were Rowdy Rodriguez, who's 22 and plays for the 66ers. He was California League Player of the Month. His teammate, Dylan Jordan, was the California League Pitcher of the Month. And Rowdy Rodriguez led the league in average with 434 and 43 hits and an on-base percentage of 529. And then Dylan Jordan went 2-0, leading the league in ERA with a 1.05 ERA across 6 starts. So great stuff in terms of, seeing some of these young players thrive. But Mike, look, we all make really bad choices sometimes when we're especially in our young 20s. And it's such a tragic instance that this happened to Rio. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh, they made a good choice. It's you got to take that out of your mind. I think at this point, like it's what happened. And I think as fans, I think it's really important for us to do the best we can to, support the family, support him, whether you think about the fact that this was a terrible incident of somebody who probably shouldn't have been behind the wheel. Right. And it's hard because it's young people doing young people things, and it just ended up going too far, and it led to this really horrific tragedy. And fortunately, everybody's alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's first and foremost the most important thing. But I think it really makes you sit back and think about the fact that, you've got this young man who's been performing well. The world is his oyster, so to speak. He's just received that award. And, it's hard to think about, it's just so hard with this Angels organization, with Nick Adenhart losing his life. Unfortunately, what happened with Tyler Skaggs and so for Rio Foster, I mean, gosh, even the fact that, we had somebody who played for the Angels for a very long time after his career was over, he tragically passed in a car accident. So there's a lot of hurt in the organization and among the fan base too, of just these tragedies that happen. And it's just, it's hard to navigate sometimes. Right.
Yeah. I think that's really what made this heavier for a lot of people and for us because of the history with the Angels and the Caden Hart, of course, Tyler Skaggs, as you mentioned. And so that's what makes this really heavy. And I think that we sometimes can see these guys as superheroes and not realize that they are humans and they're going to do great and they're going to make maybe unwise decisions. And
they're kids, right?
And you're accurate. You're accurate that it is not our responsibility to make a judgment call on what decisions they made or what decisions they didn't make. Our responsibility is to be a support to the family. Our responsibility, maybe perhaps we can help donate. I know obviously you and I are praying people, so we're going to be praying for Rio and for the entire family. And there's a lot of healing that's going to need to take place, not just physically, but now could be a rift in the family, and so this gets really, really personal. And so I think that it's just a reminder that whatever you have and wherever you are, that it's really important to take responsibility and do what wise people do. And what wise people do is they think and then pause and consider that. Is that a good decision? And then do it again. And I get that they're in their young 20s and I get that young 20s may not make wise decisions, but also I'm 45 and 45-year-olds don't make wise decisions either. Right. And so I think that this is just a good reminder for all of us that we need to take responsibility for you, right? Take responsibility for who we are, and that we need to, have the wisdom to know what to do and the courage to do it. And that's always the question that we should be asking. And so in this situation, I think the wise thing for us to do and the courageous thing for us to do is to give all of our support to the families of Rio Foster and of course the young lady that was driving, and hope that things turn out, that they heal up. He's going to be out for a while, right? I mean, there's a lot of comeback that he's going to need to have, but what a beautiful story that could possibly be if he heals up and is able to come back and play some baseball.
Yeah. And I think a good takeaway here is just consider who you are, so to speak, responsible to, because there's people in your life that, you might be navigating the world and you might be making decisions and think, oh, this only affects me. right? And who cares, what happens? This is only going to affect me. Well, that's not true, because there's people in your life that love you, that care about you, that want you around. And so, even like, especially, in the last 5 years, I've gotten married and had a child. It's like, yeah, like before I could make decisions and think that, oh, this doesn't affect anybody but me. But, now I think about the fact that, oh, I have a wife and a baby and a family, and that extends to like our family, right? Of just, there are people that you're responsible to, in the sense that they want you around, they love you, whether it's friends, family, relatives, whoever it may be in your life. Just know that you want to make decisions that that you don't see in the scope of, it's just me, it's only going to affect me. It really does affect the people around you, and I think that's an important point to make in light of a tragedy like this.
Hey, when it comes to your money, it can be really frustrating, and you're not sure how to navigate that. You're not sure what accounts you have. You're not even sure about your net worth, maybe your 401ks, your properties, your investments. Maybe you don't have the full picture of how rich you are, or maybe how rich you're not, right? And that's where Monarch Money comes in. They're an all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life all together, all in a clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's built for people just like you. And so if you're struggling with organizing your finances, Monarch Money is going to help you out. They're going to do the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and feel in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you're going to get half off your first year. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com.
You know who I've been missing on the field? Nolan freaking Schanuel, Mike, because we had Davidson over there at first base to give him a try. And then, Peraza's been over there, and there's been a lot of hits that direction that, you think Nolan probably would have caught that. And so it's been frustrating to miss him over at first base. And look, sometimes when Neto has made a throw that's not right on the money, Nolan's there to pick him up. And I think that's a very underrated part of his game. But he's been out with a left wrist contusion, a deep bone bruise, Mike. He was set to try to take some batting practice against the coach on Friday. He had begun ramping up activity earlier in the week in Kansas City, but he had to slow down. And Ray Montgomery said, we thought he'd gotten close in Kansas City, but then he went out and he felt a little bit further there, and it still bugged him a bit. Now, he did add that he didn't think Schanuel would need any at-bats against live pitching to be able to return to the lineup. Last time he played was August 23rd. At the time, Schanuel thought, I'll be back on the minimum 10 days of the injured list. He wanted to get back as soon as possible. He said, I've never missed games like this before. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. I don't know what to do with my time. I'm hoping to get out there as soon as possible. He hasn't been doing any defensive work. He hasn't felt anything while doing any defensive work. He just feels it on his swings right now. They did mention on the broadcast that he has been getting into like the at-bat simulator, where he's still seeing pitches, but he's not swinging at anything. He has offered to play through the pain, but at this point, as we've discussed, who cares, right? And I think that kind of brings up the point, Mike, is should he come back, or is this a situation where he probably just needs to take the rest of the year off? What do you think?
I think if he's feeling okay, I think you bring him back. And here's why, because I think what happens at the end of this year is going to matter for next year, because if he doesn't have any more at-bats for the rest of the year, he's not going to have any game time at-bats until spring training. And I get that you can have all sorts of like off-season things that you do, but how you end will be how you start next year. And so I would love for him to not have to think, I wonder how my hand's going to do. Even though it may not be a huge injury, I would hate for him to have to battle that mental hurdle when he gets to spring training next year. So I would love for him to be able to come back. If he's in pain, then no. I think he needs to stay on the IL and sit there for a while. But if he's not in pain and he's feeling okay, then even if it's just one more week to go, I think you bring him back and let him get a few at bats to end the year, so that he's not having to have that as one of the things that he's going to need to work through once spring training starts and once the regular season starts. So I think you bring him back without any pain. If he's still in pain, then I think you take it day by day.
That's a really interesting point that you brought up. Is Nolan the kind of guy who needs to, how should I put this? The fact that he might not play the remainder of the 3 weeks, is that going to affect him, as you said, until he sees, a professional at bat in February when spring training starts up? And again, spring training is starting very early, and so is the season next year. It's going to be really early next year. But to me, I'm like, I wonder if Nolan is that kind of guy that needs to finish what he started, kind of as what you said, or if he's the kind of guy who can pick up where he left off. And to me, he seems like a kind of guy who can pick up where he left off, and where he's left off has been really great so far this season. The fact that, he's been hitting well all season long. Again, the power stuff is always going to be a discussion, but I think that he's made the adjustments and he's done all the things that he should be doing as a guy who hasn't quite built up that power yet. Remember, he's 6'4", and that's part of the reason why I think he helps Neto a lot of the time with those throws over to first base. But also, 6'4" dudes in their young 20s don't stay, 210 pounds for the rest of his career. Like, I think he's gonna add that power as his career goes on. So I wonder if he's the kind of guy who needs to finish out the season, like you mentioned. And I think what you said is reasonable. If he's hurting, don't make him do it. If he feels good again, let's get him back in there, because he wants to play. He obviously wants to be there, right?
And I don't, for me, if I'm coaching him, if I'm his manager, it doesn't matter what kind of guy he is. I would want him to get at bats if he's healthy. I would want him to get at bats, just because as a coach, I think I need to do what I believe is best for him. And I want to get some at bats so that this isn't even a discussion for next year. And again, he'll be fine. It's just a bone bruise, and it's not going to be a big deal. However, as his manager, I'd be like, I need you out there at least for the last couple of games, because I just want to flush that, get that out of your brain. And that way you get a hit. I'm good. Okay. Everything's fine, right? Get a home run. Okay. I'm good. Everything's fine. And so I think his coaching staff, his managerial staff, they just need to make the decision for him. If he's not hurting, they need to make the decision and say, okay, you're coming back and you're playing, and we need you to get a few at bats, and we need you to play the field.
All right. The problem there is that you have to count on
I
Ray
know.
Montgomery and the coaching staff to make the right decision. Because you said, if I were the manager, totally. But unfortunately, that's not the situation. And again, I feel like Ray has lost this team. But at least Nolan wants to get back in there and play. And I appreciate that attitude. And I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of gamers on this team, right? There's a lot of guys who want to play ball. They don't want to sit on the bench. Neto didn't want to sit on the bench on Sunday. Joe Adell was out of the lineup dealing with vertigo. He doesn't want to be there, right? And so I'm sure Logan O'Hoppe wants to be back in there. And I appreciate that about this team right now, the fact that these are young, hungry guys who want to be on the field. And so at the very least, we have that going for us, but it's the decision-making. And again, why I say, give them all the boot. I'm tired of this crap. Let's get somebody who can support this young team with obviously, now I'm using the obviously word, obviously talented players who want to succeed, who want to get to the playoffs and want to help turn this Angels franchise around.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff with Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, Jesse Hawley, all the Locked On experts. It's every Thursday throughout the season, and it's only on Fire TV.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Mike, what do we have on deck for Wednesday's show?
Well, after 2 starts, here's the question that Angel fans are asking because we're desperate. Is Mitch Ferris the real deal, right? So tomorrow, we're going to share what he's done over his last 2 starts, first 2 starts of his career, and ask this question. Should he even be considered to be in the rotation in 2026? We'll talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Look, before we get to that, I appreciate the fact that he's had 2 great starts in a row, because we had that really great outing from Davis Daniel, And then after that, it didn't go so great for him,
No.
even though we love Davis
Yep.
and wish him all the best. It was encouraging to see Mitch get 2 good starts in a row and not just dazzle us for 1 in a row. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us for that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
I just want to be dazzled.
Want to be dazzled, delighted?
I want to bedazzle.
No.